Hello, and welcome to Jason Cavness Experience. I'm your host, Jason Cavness. Here at CavnessHR, we launched a crowdfunding the Refunder campaign. Go to refunder.com/CavnessHR to learn more. Our guest today is Steve Buchanan. Steve, ready to be great today?
Yeah, I'm ready to be great today. Yeah.
So Steve, first thing, so how old are your kids? Are they grown or are they still like kids, so to speak?
Well, they'll always be kids to me, you know.
Yeah.
Even though, yeah, they're older. They're 20 and 21.
So talk to me about these #1 dad awards they used to give.
Well, yeah, I do put that on my resume because I've earned several #1 dad awards. Sometimes there's a mug. I have a small piece of tile that was made, and these are quite distinguished awards.
Yeah, they
that
mean
you
something,
get.
right?
They do.
Did you bribe for any? Did you give out bribes for these awards?
Like, no, they're all.
I use some extra candy or ice cream.
No, they give hugs. You know, they're give with love, right? They're really wonderful.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then talk about this your spearfishing adventures.
Oh, spearfishing! It is such a passion and hobby of mine. I love it. So spearfishing, I do it breath hold spearfishing. So so it's free diving. And basically you have like a long spear gun, which is a rubber band loaded spear gun. And you have long fins, you got the nice mask and the snorkel. It's tough to do around here because the water is dark.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you that, like how can you do it around here?
Oh, I've done it, but it's dark and it's terrifying. And the season for spearfishing around here is only like a few months. So there are places like Hawaii and Florida is really where I love doing it. And it's, so, it's like you can really unplug because there's no electronics that you have there. And the motion of the ocean is rocking you. And then you hear all the little click, 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 which is like, crabs being crabs and fish being fish. And then it's hunting, right? So, but you're hunting something that's, it's smarter than you and it's better than you down there, right? So the fish know you. So you have to be very calm. You have to slow your heart rate down because you're holding your breath. So you hold your breath, you dive down, you have to clear your ears, you have to focus on all these different internal body things. And it's a terrifying place. Like I've run into sharks before, and you have to intentionally keep your heart rate very, very low and focus on having a good shot. And then when you shoot it, you probably miss. Most of the time it's fishing, not killing. And then when you do hit a fish, you got to go grab it, bring it up to the surface, and then you have fresh fish to eat, which is fantastic too.
So I know like you go hunting, like your elk hunting is like the limit, certain things you can do, certain size elk, certain size deer, whatever.
Yeah.
Is there like limits like that on spearfishing?
Totally. You have to know the species of fish and you have to know the size that you can hit of that species of fish. So there's different techniques you can kind of do. You can kind of measure it or you judge your distance. And those are great because having those limits means that you can keep hunting, right? You keep the right population alive. It's a lot of ecologically sound activities.
I'm guessing there's some kind of like community of spearfishermen out there, spearfishing person, people, if you want to call it.
Oh yeah. There's definitely communities of Facebook groups.
I'm guessing it's pretty intense.
Yeah, it's all the same type of people, I guess, right? We all like know how weird of a hobby it is and have the same sort of loved ones that think it's equally weird, right? But it's a great way to get out and it's good. It's really good exercise too.
How much does it cost to get involved in a hobby? Like I have to imagine that's kind of expensive, isn't it? Or am I wrong?
When I started, I just had a snorkel and some cheap fins from like Walmart. And then you can buy what's called a pole spear, which is like a, 6 foot long spear. And it's got a rubber band on the end of it. You put your hand through the rubber band and then you hit, you try to hit the fish. So you can start really inexpensively.
Okay.
But then like with any other hobby, you can spend more money on it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Everything. Even like you start running as a hobby, you buy some cheap shoes before you got $1,000 shoes.
Totally.
On,
Yeah. Totally. But so like a good spearfishing setup with a good wetsuit and everything probably is about $1,000 with the weights and the dagger and all the rest.
So it's a safe presume you're pretty good swimming.
I am actually a horrible swimmer.
Yeah.
When I was back at West Point, you get qualified as your category of swimming. So you take a swim test and I was in rock swimming, which is, I didn't join the Navy. So I was a really poor swimmer. This has made me a better swimmer, but you have fins on. So it's kind of a different game.
Yeah.
Right. Like I don't know how to move my arms around, but I do know how to move my legs.
So talk about this. This I thought this was kind of funny that you take part in age-appropriate league soccer.
This is true. I do. So I played soccer my whole life. I guess I could have probably played in college, like at a D1 level, but instead I decided to pursue went to West Point and did the Army thing instead. So now it's like, so my age appropriate soccer, I've played on leagues, but I don't want to get injured. And I don't really care about the sport, like scoring or trophies or any of that. I just want to go play good soccer. So I play every Sunday with a group of guys and girls. Some of them I met through business school, and we're all aging at the same rate, right? So, there's no slide tackling, there's no goalies, there's no going to ground, there's no injuries happening. And it's more just like fun. And we razz each other. It's a good time.
Yeah, apparently like you play soccer, unless you're the goalie, like everyone's running around all the time, right? There's really no breaks. I mean, there's some breaks, of course, once in a while, but like,
yeah,
it's not like football where you're like taking like breaks between plays and stuff and walking the huddle. And soccer is like you're running at some kind of speed all the time.
Yeah, you're really doing the. I mean, I guess as we're aging, we're doing more walking, but Messi walks a lot too. So that's just how it goes. You have a more strategic perspective on the field, but you're never stopping, right? You're never taking a break.
Do you have a favorite soccer player?
Oh, Messi. I mean, of course, like who doesn't love Messi? Is he my favorite? I mean, I guess if it was my favorite local, it'd be JMO, Jordan Morris, right? And then historically, I'd say Dempsey was one of my favorite players, and Pulisic as my American player. I gotta say, he's pretty awesome. We run the U.S. A friend of mine and I have the Facebook page, the U.S. Pulisic Facebook fan page, and that's fun. So
yeah. So I don't know the schedule, but I'm guessing. So Messi will take from Miami. I'm guessing they'll eventually come to Seattle play, right?
Yeah, he won't be here because they're in different leagues, right? So there's the East Coast and the West Coast leagues.
They don't like do interleague play. Oh, I didn't know that.
The only thing would be like in the finals, right? So it would be rare unless they kind of do some exhibition stuff.
Okay, yeah, because I have a niece lives in the Dallas here. Her son's like real big soccer, like 10, and so she was trying to like have him go see Messi, and the tickets were like, I'm making this up, post regular price $50. These tickets for his got like $3,000.
Astronomical, astronomical. They were like $20 each in Miami prior to him arriving, and then they went up to like $500.
Yeah, I mean, I understand why. But he is, a big deal, so to speak.
He's the GOAT, man.
Yeah,
he's amazing to watch play. Yeah, it's like if you could see Pele play or something like that.
Yeah, he's like in his 30s, I guess, like upper 30s.
Yeah, 36.
36,
I think 36.
Yeah, I just have to worry to get these players to here before like they're past their prime. Like David Beckham came to like his late 30s.
Right.
I mean, I think Pele came in his late 30s.
Right.
I'm mistaken. Somewhere to like entice people to come like earlier. But you want to play the best, right? And we're not the best soccer.
Yeah, it's so like the Premier League in UK is where the highest priced players go.
Yeah.
And we're not there.
They'd be asking when O'Neal came out 9, just asking, hey, go play in Europe,
right.
Yeah. It's not gonna happen.
But I mean, the sport is changing, right? An unpopular opinion of mine for a while. I remember 20 years ago or so, 15 years ago, I said to my brother-in-law, I think the Super Bowl I think the American football is declining, and I think it will decline. And while it still kind of has a stranglehold on everything because of the way advertising is done, soccer is growing in America. And I mean, I guess altruistically, I think soccer is a good thing for all kids to play, right? Regardless of your gender or your size, anybody can go out and play soccer, and you don't have to buy a bunch of pads. You can just go out and be athletic and have a team experience. So I think that's a good thing. And I think that soccer in the U.S. is probably good for our population, just as a health.
Just health running around.
Yeah.
Stuff, yeah. So what's your opinion on this, right? Not counting this year, because the U.S. women's team did not do the expectations.
Yeah, it did not.
But traditionally, the men's team, for lack of a better word, sucks, right? And the women like kind of always dominate.
Right.
Why do you think it is? Like, why is this one sport where the women do so much better than the men?
Well, you remember the movie The 300, where Xerxes says something to the effect to Leonidas and the Spartans, we will subjugate your women. And Leonidas says back, you haven't met our women. I think American women are, not that they're individually better, but they have like it's more ingrained in our culture for equality, I guess. Globally, there's other countries that have more equality, but I mean, compared to a lot of countries, not so much. And our women's collegiate programs are unrivaled throughout the world. So our women are great. They didn't perform so great this year for a number of reasons, which everyone could debate. So that's an issue. Our men, it was 4 years ago, no, 5 years ago, it was depressing, but I think we had a great showing at the World Cup this last autumn. We made it pretty far. And the best thing about it is our men's team is one of the youngest men's team out there. So they'll hit their prime in 4 years when the World Cup is here.
Nice.
That is going to be amazing. Like, save money right now to buy your tickets for it when they come, because it's going to be
And it's gonna be Seattle, Dallas, I think New York City, Mexico City, Canada. So there's gonna be a lot of places to go see it.
We can go from right up here, right up to Vancouver.
Yeah. I know those tickets be hard to get or crazy to get, or who knows how they who knows the system they're gonna use to get those out there,
Yeah, there'll be some sort of lottery involved for like dedicated folks. But one of the awesome things is like, so since Seattle is like a host city, I surmise that there'll be 4 teams here during the initial bracket, right? So that 4 teams will live in the Seattle area.
Oh, that'd be nice.
For a few weeks, right? So I figure
the community and stuff,
exactly,
meet and play,
right? So then
you like bar hopping, restaurant hopping every day, trying to get some random.
Right, you can see them all, and their families come and their supporters come. So they'll like, one of the teams will probably set up camp in Tacoma, right? So there'll be a team of internationals. You'll be
almost like a mini Olympic village,
right? Yeah, these little Olympic villages set all over the place. So I'm pretty excited about seeing how that works out in the community.
Yeah, there has to be some way where, like, I'm not a big soccer fan, right? I like
it's okay.
What's the game? I watch the games for the world, so but
you'll get there.
Like, it'd be kind of unfair. Like, there's a lottery. I don't win the lottery, you don't, right? I mean, I know there's no way to do it where you feel like questioning, are you a soccer fan? Of course, everyone's gonna say yes. I'm over.
Right.
So like, it's that unfair, right?
There's methodologies for it. Like, I think there's the American Outlaws, which are the supporters for the, so like behind on one of the ends of a soccer game, that's where all the dedicated supporters sit, and they wave flags and they sing all the songs. That's where all the chants are. So in Seattle, it's the Emerald City Sporters, Emerald City Soccer Club, and then the American Outlaws. They travel around to all the games, so they'll have a number of seats if you're an American Outlaw and you join the thing and all the rest of the stuff. For Qatar, there was a lottery system that you could join, and they would allocate a certain number per country, I suppose. So they'll probably have something similar to that. With like, but there's like passport requirements. So you got to buy it, and it's non-transferable. Which will be interesting as that clashes with American capitalism. Yeah,
I know. And then what does a mountaineer do? Like, you just climb mountains?
Just looks at mountains and says those things are amazing. So I started rock climbing when I was in high school, and that became the passion of like the obsession. That's what kept me from playing soccer in college, was mountaineering. So then at West Point, I was on the mountaineering team. And so mountaineering is the full spectrum of everything in the mountains, right? So whether that be, sport rappelling or rock climbing, but typically a mountaineer is someone that will climb above to the point where you need to have gear, like a rope, right? So like if you're on Mount Rainier, any guest can climb up the first couple hundred feet. And then beyond that, there's like the national park rangers kind of discourage certain people from going further as getting up onto the Muir snowfield. And then beyond the Muir snowfield, that's when you start to get into real danger. So as you go higher in any mountain, that's where mountaineering typically starts, right? You have to be roped. You have to kind of know what you're doing, but to not be a threat to yourself and others. So I love mountaineering. Done Rainier a bunch of times with friends of mine, family members. It's great.
You have like a dream mountain you want to climb?
Wouldn't it be cool to climb like the 7 summits? But that's really expensive. It's a lot of expense. And I guess my mountaineering has waned as like my spearfishing has kind of eclipsed it, and my running, right? Like I qualified for the Boston Marathon, so that was a bit of an obsession. I'll get back into the mountains. Aren't going anywhere.
No.
I'll get back into
Well,
it.
hopefully they're not. If they go somewhere, we're in a whole
There's
world
a
of hurt.
problem. Yeah,
There's a big problem.
Yeah, I'll have like, yeah, I try to get out once a year or so. I took my kids up a couple years ago up Rainier. But it's, there's a balance between family and work and how much time you have available. I can go running in the morning. Going mountaineering, that's like,
Yeah, I guess the time you got to drive somewhere, and
yeah, it's a commitment, right? You got to have all the gear ready and food and all the rest of the stuff.
so you would consider yourself like an avid outdoorsman?
I guess the word outdoorsman has different definitions across the US, right? An outdoorsman in the Southeast would probably be like a hunter.
Yeah.
I love the outdoors. I was an infantry officer. That's kind of like, you gotta love going out in the woods, right? That did kind of sour it a bit for me, right? Because you're like, I've been sleeping on the ground all week. I don't want to sleep on the ground. But yeah, I love the outdoors. And that's one of the best things about the Pacific Northwest is just the access.
And like, how long have you have this passion for the outdoors? Since you're a kid, or you hit a certain age?
Yeah,
or?
when I was a kid, I used to spend more time out in the woods and inside, just messing
But like a
around.
lifelong obsession.
Yeah, I guess so. Like, I guess I'm more comfortable out there, but it's hard to get Wi-Fi signal out there now, right? So you gotta focus on what's right for your body and your age and all the rest of the family requirements.
So let's talk some of your Army training. First, I want to talk about the Jump Master. What is a Jump Master? People don't know what it is.
So Jump Master, if you ever seen any Army movies where there's people jumping out of the airplane, the Jump Master is the person that oversees all of that. So a Jump Master, there's several positions that there are. There's the person that's, calling and controlling the door. There's also people on the ground. A Jump Master is just like basically the one that runs the show of an airborne operation.
And this is like, they just don't pick anybody. You gotta really know your stuff. You like be detail oriented. Like they're picking like based like cream of the crop, right?
Well, I mean, you got to be airborne qualified, and you have to learn all of the nomenclature and all of the rest of the thing. Now, and then you go through a 3-week school at Fort Benning, Georgia. No, Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and they qualify you to be a jump master. So you need a bunch of jump masters. So for every maybe 30 jumpers, you need a jump master. But it's kind of just par for the course, right? If you've been doing it a while, and if you've been in the Army a while and you've been doing it, it's not, I mean, it's just not it's not available to everybody in the Army because you don't need everybody to jump out of airplanes, right?
I mean, why pay the money for everyone to be jump master or airborne?
Right.
Every unit's not airborne, right?
Yeah. So it's just like it's like a job requirement more
And
than
do you
anything
ever
else.
you still go skydiving? Like anything
No, that's the kind of
you're like that outdoorsman, that outdoor part can stay alone.
That's expensive. I think it'd be wonderful to go do that. Like I have friends that do that, but it's like a big money commitment.
And the time commitment too, because you got to drive somewhere and
yeah, all of that. Kind of a little unrealistic, but it would be awesome, right? But
so is there any like outdoors hobbies that you want to do we haven't done yet?
I would love to go what's the one, kiteboarding, where you got the big kite and you got a surfboard and you're going, that seems, and then they jump like 50 feet in the air. That seems amazing. Because then you have to learn about the wind. You're really in touch with both the wind and the water. That would be exciting, but also expensive.
Yeah. So you also finished Ranger School.
Mhm.
So from your point of view, like I know Ranger School, they'll say like Ranger School is a leadership school. Is it really a leadership school, or is it just a bunch? Is it really just like embrace the suck and survive this daily torture, so to speak?
There are leaders that haven't gone to Ranger School, right? So it's not like an exclusivity thing. It is a leadership school for the military, right? To do combat operations, it helps you lead in those scenarios because you practice those scenarios. It's not like they go over, like a PhD in leadership. It's not like those lessons are taught in there. It's more like a test what you know, right? And figure out how to say the words, commands, and orders in the right tone of voice and presentation to inspire people to lead or inspire people to action when when they don't want it, when they don't want to, because they're starving and they're tired and you're miserable. So how do you motivate during miserable times? Good. I mean, does that translate over into leadership in the civilian world? I've never really had environments where people are that hungry or tired or angry, except maybe climbing.
Yeah, unless you're doing expedition to like the North Pole or something, or something random, or maybe you could go on the first ship to Mars or something.
Right. But even then, like, you're communicating a different style. Like, you would not be like, listen, Ranger, you need to go get that. That's not going to be effective.
No. If somebody been sleeping 3 or 4 days and they're starving, you gotta,
They're not on that.
So talk about being an Excel guru. Like one thing, like people don't realize, like Excel, PowerPoint, none of us use it as good as it can be, right?
Yeah.
And so how did you just taught yourself? You took lessons, or you just like, hey,
self-taught, autodidact in terms of Excel. So I majored in mathematics, and when I solve a problem, I want it to stay solved, right? So I wouldn't necessarily do it by hand. I would write a code or a program to solve it. And it was more fun for me to do it that way, to figure out how to do it on Excel or maybe MathCAD or some other program where I could create a solution that would stay forever. And then as I go along in life, I'm just nerdy about it, right? I always see an opportunity to make an Excel document. This could be made out of a spreadsheet, and my whole life's on a spreadsheet. So I overly use Excel to augment my interaction with the world. And I guess, I'm an index match guy, then right? And I've used it in businesses. I've used it, and it was really at the foundation of TDY Rentals, right? There's the complexity of figuring out how much a TDY reimbursement is massively complex, right? So you have TDY locations across the United States, and every city gets its own TDY reimbursement amount, and those amounts change seasonally, right? In DC, there's 4 different rates. Tampa, there's 2 rates. So those rates change seasonally, and then you also have a variable number of days per month, right? So that adds to the complexity of letting someone understand how much money they actually do receive while they're on TDY. And then from that, you have to subtract how much are they going to pay for utilities, rent, move-in expenses, and all of those other things you have to subtract from that, basically. And then you have to wrap this up into a monthly bill, so a monthly amount. And then it even gets more complex, because under certain programs, there's like the Department of State has what's called a sliding scale. So for the first 60 days, they get 100% of their entitlement, and then it drops down to 50% and then down to 25%.
That's insane.
So in that's 60 days, it's not 2 months. So during those 60 days, it might go over 3 months, which have different amount of days, and the seasonal change, right? So creating this calculator and being able to turn this weird set of factors that create the optimal reimbursement and delivering that to the client, that's kind of like a core of our IP almost. And that's one of the real value adds that we give at TDY Rentals, is helping people understand how much money they could make and how to use it.
So we'll talk about insurance later on, but I had a question for you. Like you ever find yourself in a situation where, like, you actually introduce on Excel, they say, I don't know how to do it. And you're like, are you kidding me? Like, how you know how to do this? And then you got to remember, no, I'm the Excel guru. They probably don't know.
No, I just always know that I'm better at Excel than everybody I ever get. No, I did meet. So I was a business manager for a company called New Engine in Seattle. And I was using Excel to model a lot within that company. And I met one woman on the train on the way back home, and she was as equally good at Excel as I would, right? So she could talk the talk, and we were like, oh,
So the two of you nerded out.
Yeah, we did, right? But most of the time, you figure out, well, I have a problem. How do I solve it? And then there's people out there making YouTube videos. They're gurus.
Yeah,
right?
the YouTube University, best thing ever.
They're so good at it, right?
So talk about this startup you had called Choose Vets. Tell us a story about that.
So Choose Vets. So when I was in law school, I started a moving company called Veterans Moving Company. And it was basically we were lumpers. We would load and unload trucks. You know, people in the military know how to do that. We do it all the time. We're strong. So I started that moving company. And it was, I hired Michael and then hired Ronald. I did moves with Michael. Michael did moves with Ronald. And then I developed an Excel program to do the invoicing and scheduling and all of that. And that moving company grew. And then I built a cleaning company because I realized it was the same core functionality of like from the business functionality of how do you acquire customers, how do you acquire the labor. And so I grew that, and I didn't really make any money on it, but I was employing people and I was learning about the business systems. And then while I was in business school, I learned about scalable tech companies. I didn't really know about that. And then it's kind of an aha moment, like, so a moving company and a cleaning company and a yard working company and all of these other things where you employ labor to do a job for a customer, like an individual customer, an individual labor, are all the exact same business model. So you could just automate all of it. So got together and we made a company called Choose Vets, which was essentially kind of like what TaskRabbit is now, which wasn't really in the same format back then. So it would be, you'd go online and you'd see all of the available laborers, but all of them were military veterans. You could see their 5-star reviews, their hourly rate. You could pick based upon the skill set, and then you book one of those. Great concept, kind of a triple bottom line thing, right? The customers loved it, the workers loved it, and there was real kind of it was good in a lot of ways in that it helped integrate military veterans with society a little better, and because the clients hired the folks because they were military veterans, right? And this was in like 2010, so the wars are really still going on, and you had problems integrating into society. So that well, you know, at least with the guys that worked on the platform as laborers, they got that sort of reward. And then from the client standpoint, concept is like nobody brags about hiring somebody to mow their lawn, but everybody brags about the military veteran that they employed. So they were real, and they would, you know, my guys would get like dinner and stuff like that with the people that hired them, because there was a real, there was a feeling of camaraderie. Also, from the standpoint of the laborer, when you join a company, often you don't see the end results of whatever Excel document you're working on or PowerPoint you're working, whatever, you don't see it. But with a finite job, you can see the true end result of it. You see those were boxes here, now they're boxes over there. It's a good thing. So you have an internal reward and it's exercise. So there's therapy on that side. But Choose Vets, eventually, with a platform like that, you have to raise a lot of money. Because the margins are very thin and it's C2C, which is also complex. And about the time we started raising money, we got a lot of press, good press. And as we were mobilizing, that's when Home Advisor and Porch it raised like a crap ton of money, right? And we just frankly couldn't raise any money to compete with that. Also, Amazon started Amazon Home Services, which is now defunct. And that kind of pushed us out.
Is that the one where they like would open your door and deliver a package inside your house when you weren't there?
Yeah, I don't really, I think they were doing the same thing that Home Advisor and Porch were doing, really. But, you know, once Amazon steps in the game and says they want to do it, you're like, well, I guess I'm not doing it because there's Amazon's doing it.
So why do you think so many military veterans have trouble transitioning even to this day with all these nonprofits out there, all this focus on it? Why do you think this is still a challenge for a lot of veterans?
Well, it's definitely the civilians' fault. No, it's just a different language, right? And there's presumptions about a military service member. Some are true. But for a while there was a real fear about PTSD, and they were going to go crazy and kill.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to hire anybody veteran because they all have PTSD.
They
They're
all
all
have
going to blow everything up.
right?
Yeah.
No, what is really going to happen if they have PTSD is they're just going to be quiet for a while. They're like going to be okay, or they'll be sad on Veterans Day. But so there's that, and then it gets politicized so quickly that, like, if there's a certain ethos or culture in a company, they might not want to integrate someone that they don't feel would fit that ethos or culture. So this problem, and also a problem is that in the military, we don't brag about our accomplishments. Anybody that brags didn't do it, right? You're not awesome if you're bragging about it. But as if an employer doesn't speak that, they want to know, especially in an interview, tell me how great you are. And
you can't say, "Oh, my team did everything."
Yeah.
Let me go hire your team.
That's exactly right.
Why am I hire your team? Let me go get somebody who work for you.
That's exactly right. Yeah, a good leader, at least in the military, accredits their team for all the successes, and all of the failures are the failure of the leader. That's just how leadership goes there, and that's not how employers, or at least the HR world, thinks.
I agree with you. I think one challenge too, and I know people disagree with this. I think a lot of veterans, they're so used to being like spoon-fed, right? Do this time. And of course you move, but moves are done. Everything's kind of done for you, right? And it's a very where no one's spoon feeding you, right? You got to do stuff your own, right? No one's gonna tell you to wake up. No one's telling you when to eat. I think a lot of veterans have a challenge with that, right?
There's a structure problem, right? If you get so, it's just so used to one standard of structure, whether it be showing up at a certain time, or here's the standards that you must play by, right? And then you go into a structureless world that's probably, it's not necessarily the best fit. Now, not everybody requires that structure in their life. That's just something that you're used to. And another thing is the norms in the military are written on the wall. This is what I got to do for success. I'll do all those things. Whereas in a civilian world, like a lot of companies, the culture is just not published. It's not written anywhere. No. They don't write it down. If
it is written, no one's following it.
Right? Yeah. You're like, well, what am I supposed to do here? Tell me how you want me to do, and then I'll do.
In the military, you want to get promoted E5, do these steps. Right. E6, do these steps. What kind of officer? This is how you apply to OCS.
Yeah.
Everything's black or white.
Right.
I'm not going to subjective stuff, of course. Like everything else, but like, or like most everything, you know what you got to do to succeed.
Right.
Or
the writing's on the wall. Or fail. Yeah. The rules are pretty clear. Yeah. Yeah. And that's not always true depending on the culture that you're in anywhere else. And that's hard because that culture is taught at the very entry level jobs. But you're getting a person that has leadership experience and all of these other great get thing done experience, and they miss that cultural training of what's the culture of an accountant, what's the culture of like a finance person, or whatever that might be. So that learning that culture, that's tough. Right.
Yeah, when I got out in 2015, amazing how much civilians don't know anything about military. Like a lot of civilians, they don't know different what general or private does. It's the same thing,
Yeah.
And like kills me to I know at least when I was coming to the Army, every E4 had to do some kind of training. Like even E4, I probably got it from a group of people and gave a class, and public speaking, and lots of civilians know how to do that, right? Just things like little things like that, I don't think civilians get what we do in the military.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of executive level things that are pushed way, way down in the military, whether it could be public speaking or teaching or being in charge of 5 people. You don't get that very often in the civilian world until just because of the hierarchical structure. A lot of if you're a lawyer in charge of 5 lawyers, you've been lawyering for a long time, right?
Yeah, I'm sure when you graduated West Point and graduated, entry basic course, you were in charge of a platoon with millions of dollars of equipment, probably 22 years old. So I bet the 20-year-old somewhere else, probably in charge of getting coffee for someone,
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. I had 40 infantry dudes. Yeah.
But yet you didn't get no credit for it if you get out in 6 years.
Because what job requires you to be in charge of 40 people? Right. At the entry level. There's leadership skills that are taught and way young. Maybe that's hard to even think of what the civilian.
And that's probably a lot of senior leaders have a hard time when they get out, because they're used to being in charge of people, and they get out. Oh, here you're in charge of one person,
You're totally missing all of my skill set, right?
Yeah.
okay, I can make a PowerPoint or Excel document, but my real skill set would be to make sure everybody else gets their things done and inspire them to do it. Also, so like leadership is such a huge deal in the military. Like, and I feel like sometimes in the civilian world, it's given lip service, right? We received classes on leadership
all the time.
This is the theory. This is the execution. Now go do it.
There are manuals on it, how to do it, how to do it, you know.
Written by PhDs. We make a study of it because we want to empower subordinates to take action.
Study past battle, see how they make decisions.
Yeah,
you know,
all of it, all of leadership theory you get in the military. And then I've sometimes in the civilian world, you're just the person that did the best job. And suddenly,
and that's what it's called. The Peter principle takes over.
Yeah. Right. And then they just because you're in charge of someone doesn't mean you know a drop about leadership. Yeah.
And that's one thing that's good about the military too. I think that's my opinion. Like there'll be times I've been like units, and of course, you know, we'll say the E8 is supposed to be in charge, right? But in reality, it's the E4 in charge.
Right.
Because the E4 is a natural leader, knows what to do, and everyone gravitates to him.
Emotional leader as well. Yeah. There's the different leadership roles plays within like group dynamics. Yeah, that's fascinating to see, right?
Yeah. Another concept of the military people get wrong. Like I think a lot of people think in the military this day, it's like a Gomo Palom, you know, E7 tells you what to do, you do it right. It's not like that, right?
It's not like that at
like
all.
every leader I knew who did that, they failed.
Yeah.
Horribly, right?
Not work.
Every leader I knew who like was successful, they asked input, collaborative. Of course, it's a decision, but at least you know you got the input right.
Yeah, that what I was taught by General Vines back in the day. He said, phase A, phase alpha, and phase bravo of leadership. During phase alpha, I need your feedback. Tell me if the emperor has no clothes. Tell me, I'm like, give me all the ideas. Tell it, and then there's a lot of back and forth, where you collectively decide what the best plan of action is. And then phase bravo is, okay, we're doing this.
Yeah.
Right. We're doing this.
I gave you 10 chance for feedback in phase A. I don't hear it now.
Yeah. And then phase B, execute. And then of course there's phase C, which is, oh, that didn't work. Quickly, let's change. Quickly.
That's funny. Yeah. So you were a personal guest of the 2015 State of the Union?
Yeah.
Like you're talking about the State of the Union with the president against the State of the Union. That's pretty cool. How'd that work?
That was pretty cool. So Congressman Kilmer is a fantastic host. And when we were in the beginning stages of Choose Vets, we you're trying to figure out what do we do with this thing? How do we get notoriety? So we pitched him. We pitched him just because that's what you do. You let your local politicians know what's happening in their backyard. So we pitched him, we told him what it was, and we didn't have any ask, right? He asked us like, what do you want us to do in Congress? We're like, I don't know, nothing, man. Just here's what we are. You know, I guess as an entrepreneur, it's not our job to change the rules. It's just our job to know what the rules are and figure out how to optimize the laws that are set by the nation, right? So we can see what the laws are. Okay, cool. We'll play within those laws and figure out how to make money out of it. I think that's what like kind of an entrepreneur does. So he asked, and we said nothing. Thanks for your time. And then he asked me to go to the State of the Union. Like we were like, "What? That was crazy." Like, okay, sure. And we're a guest. So I was a guest there. It was fun to see the pageantry of everything that goes along.
So are you treated like a VIP? Like you get special stuff, you get special hotel rooms, or like you treat like a special person, so to speak, or none of that?
Just a +1 for the congressperson, right? So, you know, we go through like the tunnel, and you go through the different areas, and you sit and you watch, which is cool. Yeah, I did get to meet other congresspeople, which is fascinating. To see them like congresspeople in the raw hanging out with other congresspeople in the raw.
In the natural habitat.
Right. Yeah. Right. Because, you know,
someone should do that. You know how they do like these where people like they have these guest speakers and like they narrate like natures or what. Yeah. Someone's like do like a Snoop Dogg. Snoop Dogg narrated the one the weasel got to
the weasels.
Yeah. They do like awesome. Snoop Dogg narrating a session of Congress.
Oh yeah.
Who are they
like
on the natural habitat?
Like David Attenborough.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because like when privates are hanging around with other privates, they talk one set, but it's the same regardless of your rank. When general officers get to finally hang out with other general officers and nobody's listening or watching, they talk the same way as anybody else normally does. And that's similar with congresspeople when they're humans, and you get to see them. And then there is a hierarchy, which I didn't really understand before. Like the Speaker of the House definitely gets a bigger office, has a bigger control and influence. So that was kind of cool to see. There was some press, like we did some podcasts. I was on national news, answering a question about veterans issues. Did it help the company? Yeah, I mean, it did, because you have to have a PR campaign when you're at a certain level. I think that PR campaign might have been too early for that company.
Yeah, a lot of stars made a mistake. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was kind of an error, I suppose. We probably should have done a better go-to-market strategy. Probably should have done a better, operation strategy, and figure out our client interaction at a local level first. But those are lessons learned, right? That's kind of how you move forward.
So you went to law school like later on in life, right?
Yeah.
Why decide to go to law school later on?
Glutton for punishment, right?
At least you're honest.
Yeah. So, well, my divorce was quite contentious, and my post-dissolution was very contentious, and you have to hire attorneys to do that. And I frankly wasn't making very much money. I wasn't making enough money to do that. And I realized I had just my view of the world was incongruent with the world that I was then facing, right? So in the military, if you say something, other members of the military take it as truth, right? If you don't call someone a liar, that's like fighting words, like slapping someone.
You got to have hell of a proof, overwhelming proof.
Yeah, like
beyond reasonable doubt.
Right. The assumption is that what you're saying is the truth, and that's true to my West Point core. That was true to everything I had. But in the in the court system, the presumption is that you're lying without having evidence of it. So that was a big learning lesson for me. I was like, well, of course I said it. Why is it not true? So I realized I kind of didn't necessarily understand the rules of the game. I understood the military rules of the game, but I did not understand the civilian rules of the game. And it helped me re-look life and reassess how the divorce machinations were kind of operating, and it worked out quite well, right? I then, eventually we came to an amicable solution, and I think it all worked out great in the end, and I learned a lot along the way.
What kind of law did you focus on?
What did I focus on? First, I really focused on family law, because that's why I was there, right? Everyone else was there to go become a lawyer. I never wanted to be a lawyer my entire life, like never. Like that was not what I wanted to do. I wanted to be an astronaut. So I was there, and in every class, I was like asking the teachers, how I would learn contract law, and I'd be like, oh, I'm gonna go back and analyze my own divorce contract. Oh, I'd learn about this. So family law was really my focus, not to become a family lawyer, but for survival of sorts. And then I what did I get to? I got to focus a little bit more on entrepreneurship once I was kind of out of the woods in the family law, and also on negotiation, right? Like I didn't understand anything about, like, when people would haggle over the price of an item, I wouldn't know. I was like, I'm terrified of that, right? And I knew that there was some algorithm, some heuristic, but
some Excel spreadsheet.
There must be. Actually, I did do it. Like I did like one of my thesis, I guess kind of a thesis, was on game theory and negotiation. And I did write an Excel spreadsheet to say, when does the liar work, right? Under what circumstances? And you just, there's the permutations on steps in a negotiation, and at what point do you lie, or would someone lie, and what are the outcomes of that, given, is it a one-time negotiation, is it a longevity negotiation, all of those things, to find out when would someone be likely to lie, when would the outcomes of that happen. So I just geeked out on that to a level that I don't think they were really expecting. I don't think they'd ever had an Excel spreadsheet on a law paper. Yeah. So yeah, negotiation was fun. But then I did get to do a lot of entrepreneurial stuff. I did take entrepreneurial law. I took I took more business related law and employment law from the perspective of that's the world I want to be in.
So you applied for law school, you haven't been out of school for a while. So was it just basically military career, or did you got to take LSAT? I mean, I'm guessing, did they even look at your West Point,
Yeah.
everything like that?
When I applied law school, I think they really looked at like your grades and your LSAT. I think the LSAT was like the biggest thing. I don't know how it is now. It was eons ago, decade ago. So your LSAT score was huge, and your undergrad GPA combined with where you got that degree from, and then life experience after that, right? So
now, where do you go to law school at?
University of Washington,
Okay.
right here in Seattle.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
And then after you finished that, that's when you started Buchanan Family Law. You worked for someone else first.
Okay, so when I was in law school, I did law school during the day, and I did MBA program at UW during the night. And I had
So you are a glutton for punishment.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Well, it's 24 hours in a day.
Exactly.
I got lots of hours. So the business school was like something I wanted to do, right? It's not like I had to. I got to do that. And then I was also running veterans moving company, and then eventually Choose Vets. So I was in the Army Reserves, commanding a company down in Las Vegas, and having a divorce and being a single parent, all of the rest of the things. So I slept occasionally. And then Buchanan Family Law really was like, so when did I did that when I got out of, it was only a few years ago, honestly. It was like a couple years ago when I left active duty. So I left active duty in 2007, did the reserves, deployed, went to law school, did the business things, and then I got mobilized to Tampa. And then after Tampa, I was on active duty so essentially I was on active duty for 3 years. And then 3 years ago, when I left that, or 2 years ago, I started Buchanan Family Law. So I knew family law. I knew how to run a business. I'd been the chief operating officer of a law firm in the past. So I knew how to grow firms. I didn't necessarily know how to practice law so much. I didn't really want to know how. So I was very focused on the systems and the process and automating, right? How do I automate? Now, this is before AI, but how do I automate in order to drive more value to a customer? And then keep lawyers doing lawyer things and paralegals doing paralegal things. So the integration of those two things, because a lot of law firms are just like antiquated, just all companies get antiquated after a purpose. So Buchanan Family Law was my experimentation into how would I grow a firm, right?
So how do you experience the Choose Vets in your Buchanan Family Law help you with the company you're running now?
Oh, so lots of lessons learned. Painful, expensive lessons learned. So at Choose Vets, I learned a lot more about having good, solid founding team and a founding team agreement. That was pretty critical. I learned just the jargon and nomenclature that you have to ingest when you're in the startup world. You learn all of that stuff. So that was important. In Buchanan Family Law, how did that inform what I'm doing now? Well, I was only doing it for a little bit of time. But I did learn more about the power of automation and the power of having a good funnel or cycle for customers to make sure that the customer, to drive the right value to the customers at all level of the cycle, right? So that you can view it from the customer's perspective, which I hate to say a lot of lawyers do. They view it from the legal perspective, but you have to look at how does the customer interact with the service that they're being provided. So I would say that was probably a lesson in there.
And are you still involved with something called Tacoma Pro Bono Community Lawyer?
Right. So Tacoma Pro Bono is fantastic. So while I was doing Buchanan Family Law, I would donate time there because people need that. And as a lawyer, you need pro bono hours, but you always get more hours than you need. But you have a lot of really interesting cases. You find people that are like, they need a lawyer, right? They need someone to kind of point them in the right direction, even if it's just an hour, right? You sit down with someone for like, if under that umbrella, a lawyer can sit down with a client that needs legal help, like a family law lawyer, and 20 minutes can drastically change how they interact with the world, or how they interact in that, or their perspective, right? Because you have one concept of what the law is, but a lawyer can be like, no, it's not like that. I think it's this way. The speed limit's 20 miles per hour, not 25, or whatever it is. So that was very gratifying. And then over the last year, I've been doing pro bono hours through the University of Washington, Tacoma, sponsored by Tacoma Pro Bono. So I go into the Veterans Incubator down there, Vibe, and I'll do, I'll educate the students, whether they be veterans or not, I'll kind of rip apart their business proposal or their business plan from both a legal and business perspective. So that counts as pro bono, right? Those students need that sort of guidance, and I needed the experience, and it turned out to be a really great experience with Vibe, as they're now hosting us. So the University of Washington Tacoma hosts TDY Rentals in the Vibe incubator over the summer, because we're hiring 5 of their students. We've hired 5 of their students as paid interns over the summer. So it's really a great, symbiotic relationship there.
So you're not a practicing lawyer right now, correct?
I can say I'm a lawyer because I'm licensed, but I don't practice.
But do you have to so is it like you have to do education once a year to keep your law some continuing education? Like, what has to happen for them to say you're no longer a lawyer, or you're always a lawyer regardless?
Well, you have to get disbarred to not be a lawyer, and you get disbarred by malpractice. If you're not up on your dues and your legal education requirements, I don't know, that doesn't necessarily disbar you. That means that your license is in jeopardy or so. I don't know. That's one of the things that we never don't get to that point. So I never want to know. But yeah, I do have education requirements, and I have pro bono requirements, and then fees and stuff like that. But I'm about to, now that TDY Rentals is going so well, I'll slip into an inactive role. So as an inactive role, you have far less requirements, basically. You're still a lawyer. You just.
And can you practice law anywhere in the United States? You have to have a bar exam for that certain state.
You take the bar exam, and there's a multi-state bar exam, so that your bar score can be accepted by other jurisdictions, but you get sworn in by the state. So I'm licensed to practice in Washington State. Now, corporate attorneys can practice wherever their corporation is, but they can't stand in front of the bar. So like in the front of a courtroom, in front of the chairs, there's like a little bar, right? And then on the other side, that's where the lawyers are. So you can't go in front of the bar unless you're licensed in that jurisdiction.
So let's suppose you're a family lawyer, right? Family law lawyer. Can you then go and be defend someone in a criminal case?
Yeah, you can do it. I mean, I just wouldn't recommend it.
Okay.
Yeah, there's different philosophies about it, right? But when I go to the doctor, if I have a problem with my toe, or if I have a problem with my skin, because I'm a redhead, right, I need to see a dermatologist. The doctor can help with some basic things, but it's, there's generalists, and then you probably need a specialist on certain things.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So I know I'm making this up, it's like a lot of lawyers that go to law school, they become lawyers are like, oh shit, this is not what I expected, right?
Yeah.
This sucks, right? Is that still the case for a lot of people? Or?
I don't know. I can't speak for a lot of them, but alcoholism is rampant. So maybe that's maybe that's an indicator. I think, there's the people that were in law school that their parents are lawyers, or they worked in a firm, or they have an idea, a clue about it. And there's the people who just saw it on TV, or just had in their resume or something.
They saw Matlock and want to be like Matlock,
right.
or they see
I got one of those suits. Yeah. I don't know. I can't really necessarily speak for it. I know that some people find it truly fulfilling and it fits their personality and lifestyle, and others do something else.
Here's one for you. What's a concept of the American legal system that people just don't understand? A lot of people think no justice and all the truth comes out, But isn't it more like, I don't think people are like how adversarials are, right? It's like who has the best game plan, so to speak, right? Versus justice and right, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So there's a bunch of concepts you learn in law school that or you learn through being at law school, which are kind of fascinating, right? So, justice sometimes tips in favor of the underdog, right? So, you have there's a judge and there's juries, and they're not dumb. They know that if it's a little guy suing the insurance company, that the insurance company has the money to put forward all of these attorneys. So that's I kind of like that part of the legal system there. So what do you said, ask, what do people not know about it? So our form of government is super expensive form of government, right? And so as a strategic planner in the military, you try to think about, well, what forms of government suit an individual country best? And our form of government is too expensive, frankly. The society has to collectively apportion a large amount of money towards the legal system, where we figure out if the law is right for the citizens. And it's an adversarial system, and it's very, very expensive. Just think of the debate over any social issue. It's debated in public, but it's debated by lawyers, it's debated by politicians. That's all super expensive. Other countries, they really can't afford to be debating like that. So you have these powerhouse countries where the law is debated, and where you kind of figure out what's the best set of laws to meet the society and the people in it. And that's a perspective that I kind of got while I was there, understanding that the adversarial, expensive system that we have is in the pursuit of figuring out what is the right law to meet the people there, but also that not every country can afford that. So the petri dishes of every state were determining whether they want abortion or not, right? They're going to try it in this state and try something else in that state. That's all to get to what's the right interaction between law and people.
Okay. And when you passed the bar exam, were you still active duty or your reserves?
Oh, no, I was in the reserves.
Reserves.
Yeah, I was in the reserves.
And so I'm guessing when you passed the bar exam, the military, they said, "Oh, you're a lawyer now. Let's make you a JAG officer." Do they?
No, not at all. I'm not a JAG officer.
Of course not.
I'm not a JAG. No. No, it's on my resume.
Yeah.
But JAG is just like any other branch. You have to apply to join that. And I did not want to.
Yeah, part of it. Yeah. But you think like that's one knock on the military, like how they do like talent management, so to speak. This guy just passed the bar exam. Yeah. It costs a lot of money to people lawyers. Let's do the switch right. But Army doesn't think that way.
But I don't want to. I would say no, right? There's still people in there. They're like, hey, why don't you come be a JAG? And I'm like, no, thank you. It did allow me to. So I'm a psychological operations officer. So in the active duty, I was infantry, then I was trained as a psychological operations, but it does allow me to be a civil affairs officer, kind of, because I have a legal expertise. So civil affairs integrates with the government in foreign countries or wherever, and they'll embed with different parts of the government. So I can embed with the lawyer or the judge or the judicial system or the political system, given that I have this legal.
Now, are you still the commander of the unit down in Mountain View, California?
No, I had my change of command was a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as a commander, he's a battalion commander, correct?
Correct.
Is it still like, 2 weeks a year, weekends, or is that actually more full? It's more full time, right?
Yeah, it's
more like.
Right.
Is it meaning as an active duty, or is like kind of a mix?
No, because active duty, you're living it every day of your life, but you still.
If you have a command responsibility, you got to take care of.
You always have to have your phone.
You can't have that 2 days.
Yeah, somebody calls you, you have to answer it. Your boss calls you, or somebody gets in trouble. You got to take the call at 3 a.m. and you're not necessarily getting paid for that.
Now, are you getting paid like based on 2 days a week, or are you getting paid like a different amount of money because you're battalion commander?
You're still getting paid two days a month.
Okay, so just like other Army duties, like you got to go.
Yeah, you got extra stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
Man, that's and they wonder why they're having trouble filling their ranks.
Yeah. And then, so how do most people deal with they're say, let's suppose you worked at Amazon, so to speak, right? How do people usually do? Okay, I have this full-time job as a, reserve commander in Mountain View. Also have a full-time job as we'll say a some kind of direct to Amazon, right? How do people balance that, right? It has to be hard to
They
do.
don't. It's really, really impossible. It's something that the reserves, I imagine, struggles with. So like to stay in the reserves, I knew that there's a lot of jobs I just could not do. Right. If I wanted to be a partner at a law firm, can't do that and be in the Army Reserves. There's no way that there's civilian organizations, though they may support the reserves, not to that level.
No, they might say they do.
Yeah, but they're not going to be like, oh, you're going to Korea for 2 months.
You know, we got this big takeover. You know, we're about to launch this initiative where we're like, you know, do AI something.
Yeah, so that's a hardship. So
and do you think that like challenges how the reserves keep talent right? Do you think?
Oh yeah, that's definitely a problem, right? It's a you have to make work-life balance, but you have to make work-life balance.
I mean, like I'm using Amazon because we're in Seattle. You know, work at Amazon, make a lot of money, stocks, or work for reserves, and like get underappreciated, so to speak.
Underappreciated, overworked, and I mean, to an extent, you want that. You want someone that's like dedicated to it, but also you're losing a lot of talent because it's an abusive work relationship sometimes, right? And it's just the nature of the system.
So you said earlier you should be assigned to Las Vegas. Now I'm writing you like, how does that work? It's always like reserves. You just like basically, I guess I'm thinking of a National Guard where you're in some kind of unit in Tacoma and that's you live for whole life.
Yeah.
So how's it like you move around? Is that everyone does this or?
Yeah. So the Guard is local, it's state, right? So you're assigned in that state. The reserves is a national asset. So for example, psychological operations has to be a national asset because states would never be allowed to use that asset for themselves. States they can call up their own National Guard to, for states of emergency, but they would never really be able to pull up they would never be able to use PSYOP. It's not legal. So just like the same thing kind of with the Navy, right? So the Navy, should Iowa have a Navy National Guard? No, it's a national asset so in the reserves, so in the Guard, you stay in your state. So you commute to your Guard post, but in the reserves, you move around the nation to whatever fits your career field. And you're reimbursed for travel, which is nice.
I know, and I have to do people get selected for Battalion Command, Brigade Command, based on promotion lists, OMLs, all these different things, command select lists. It's the same thing, reserves?
Same thing.
Okay, so it's not like, you went to a job board, the Battalion Command from my review, and put my resume in. It's like this OML. Okay,
yeah, there's an OML, there's
a
board, they select you. It's the same process.
Okay. So what's your job now in the reserves?
I'm awaiting assignment right now. So I would like to join the Army Innovation Command. It's part of the 75th Innovation Command, which is part of Army Futures Command. Basically a whole bunch of innovators, right? So, but I'm post command, so the job opportunities are limited. That's where I'd like to go. They're located in Austin, but there's a unit in San Jose and a unit in Seattle. And so that would be very convenient. But that process takes a while.
Have you, I don't know what's called, but I think it's something where like commanders decommand and they realize they're not in charge no more. And like, no one's counting them no more. It's like kind of like this post command, not depressed, but post command, like something is called where you're like, oh man, I'm not commander no more. Like,
oh, I imagine that hits you on active duty a lot more, right?
Yeah.
There's General Schwarzkopf tells the story of like when he left the military, he gets to make the executive decision of getting leaded or unleaded gas, right? And he has to pump it himself and all of that. That's not so much in the reserves, right? Because I have the civilian job is so much more of my life. I would say once you leave command, it's more of like a relief, right? Because I don't have to field phone calls at 3 a.m. anymore.
That's one thing people don't realize about the military. Like I was commander of Kansas Italy, and like you get these crazy calls. Like one time I had a call, like because one of my soldiers' dependent son got pulled over by the Polizei, right? That's happening to civilian war.
No, it's not. You're in charge of everything.
Yeah, like if someone gets a DUI, you're working at Amazon. No one's gonna call the VP of Amazon, Microsoft. Hey, this this random software developer got a DUI or fight a bar. It doesn't happen, right?
It's not.
In the military, like you getting calls, it's insane, right? Like
totally.
And of course, what's the insane? Like your boss calls you, what did you do to prevent this? Let me see the proof of the safety briefing.
How did I prevent my soldier's son from getting a speeding ticket? I don't know. I'm undisciplined, sir. That's my problem.
That's one thing I don't miss about the military.
Yeah.
That stuff right there.
That's true.
So what's your plan for your career in the military?
I'll go as long as they'll keep me.
Okay.
Right. So there's,
You're still having fun doing all that kind of stuff.
I enjoy it.
Yeah.
Right. It was stamped on my heart at a young age. Right. I love service to country. So, I guess would they say, well, obviously if there was something big in my family that took priority, I would do that first. And that's why I left active duty. I left active duty for my family. So,
And how many years did you do on active duty?
8 years.
8 years. Okay.
Yeah, 8 years.
And so like, if you keep doing the reserves at your current rate, when could you retire from the military?
I could retire right now.
But you could, okay.
Yeah. So I've done, 24 years, 24 years. So I could retire, but you don't collect your retirement until you're 59 and a half.
Oh, that I did not know.
Yeah. That's kind of a bummer, right? Yeah.
And then of course, if you like knock on wood pass before, then like is your
No, I don't think so. You know what?
the government just keeps your money?
I'm not married, so I never really paid attention to that. I don't know if dependent spouses receive.
Or maybe your kids get it,
Maybe. I don't know.
They should look into that.
I should probably figure that out.
Yeah.
Just not die.
Yeah,
That's my plan.
Best,
I'll just stay alive.
Die, yeah.
Yeah.
So of course, you serve a country, because patriotism, all this kind of stuff. But what's your personal goal? Like you want to be like, the head of PSYOPs and the reserves, make one star full bird, or you just want to
I don't know.
keep doing it and just have fun? Like
I don't know. I imagine I'll probably top out at colonel.
Yeah.
I imagine that's probably it. My civilian pursuits are demanding, right? So I have to make that balance. Like, what would it be in life? Like if I get a Series A round or Series B round, I mean, can I really afford the time?
Yeah, that'd be, if you got an A round, that'd be like, one of those decision points you have to make, I think, right?
Yeah,
Like,
right.
man, I just race like a 10, 15, $20 million A round, like something real significant. You have traction like you have and increasing, like, man, like I love doing this job. However, like, I got to take care of these other people work for me,
Right. Yeah, it's a bigger demand. So we'll see what happens, right? So I'd love to stay in the military forever, but I'd also love to get a Series B round. So,
yeah, I'm guessing where you are right now in your life, like Series B versus 1-star, you taking Series B every day.
Yeah, how much?
Not even close.
Like, how much money would I need to have to not be a general officer or something like that? Yeah, because as a general officer, that's like your life, man. I mean, they have great jobs, but they're kind of side gigs.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So next, let's talk about your interns, right? So you have like, I think 5 or 6 interns.
Oh yeah.
From University of Washington Tacoma.
Yeah.
Like, let's talk about interns, like, like the whole gamut, like, paid versus unpaid, like how you recruited them, like all that kind of stuff, right?
Oh yeah, interns, right? When I hired these interns, I remember I kept having a reoccurring nightmare that I was out with my soldiers back in the day and we had to dig foxholes and none of them brought their shovel, right? And I was just terrified of that. And I was like, oh, I think it's probably because I think I hired these interns and maybe none of them are going to do any work. So the process was, it's partnership with the University of Washington Tacoma. So Professor Purdy has these seminars. And one of the seminars, it was talking about the integration between public and private sector. So I had already known Thomas Koljam at the Vibe, and we talked a bunch and we just kind of came up with this idea. We're like, hey, you have this office space. It's going to be empty over the summer. I got a lot of work that needs to get done. What if we figure something out? And then I took an entrepreneurial risk, right? I had to say, do I have this much money? Do I have this much time to spend on this experiment with these interns, right? So I have we already have a team, a senior team, and then we're going to immediately get interns, and there's no intermediary, right? So generally interns are
CEO and intern.
Yeah, right. Generally interns are at the bottom going getting coffee for someone who's frankly barely employed at the company because they're learning the culture. So we don't have that hierarchical system. UW-Tacoma was very, very helpful in helping us get the word out and getting a bunch of very quality applicants. And then we assessed them all, and we were fortunate enough to get really 5 amazing interns, right? And then it took So we all sit in a room, or we sit in a big open area, and we have like about maybe this much space, and I'm like right there with them. And we work 4 days a week. They're paid. Some of them are also getting internship credit from the university, which is good because kind of then you have a professor helping out your company figure something out, right? Which is great. Yeah, they're performing. They brought their shovels. They're digging, right? They're really good.
And how do you figure out how much to pay them?
Minimum wage.
Just, okay.
Minimum wage in Tacoma is $15.75 an hour, and that's what I could afford to pay, right?
Okay.
A lot of interns are unpaid. I didn't want to do that. I didn't feel that was ethically right. So yeah, that's how much I pay.
And like, how did you figure out what to give them to do?
So you got this huge to-do list of yourself, right? And then you write it down on all these different areas, and you're like, oh man, I'm never going to get to that one. I'm never going to get to that one. So I kind of was able to get our company to-do list together and figure out which of those lists required the most immediate labor support. And then we picked based on that, right? We have a marketing person, a coder, a UX, an operations, and accounting. So we knew in those areas we had a lot to do. So we spent the first week just educating them on the company, and there's a lot of education that they need to learn about, like the life cycle of a startup, what we're going to do, how quickly we need to change and interact. And then we just make a giant to-do list, and then allocate.
And how long does this internship last? Just for the summertime? Are you gonna keep them on like until your money runs out? Like, what's your plan with that?
So we're profitable, so money doesn't run out. But we're right. The current plan is they all go back to school in September 26th or something like that. So that's when that internship cohort ends. We're probably UW Tacoma we're working a partnership now where we can continue having more office space, especially because we have like a photo studio, like a green screen. But we also have where they'll keep feeding us interns, and I'll just keep using the interns, right? So
is the plan like rotate interns every 3 months, or like these 5? Like, we're so happy with them, you want to tell us, hey, I want to keep these 5 on as interns.
Gosh, they've all been trained and know the whole thing, and they're really humming along, right? They know how to dig.
So like the best thing we do, just keep them on if you can.
It depends, right? Because each of them has their individual goals.
Yeah, they have their own like college. I mean, someone's taking like 24 hours of college, they probably won't have time to do internship.
Right. Yeah, and I think of it in terms of like, mission first. People always. I think of taking care of each one of them and their individual goals best, right? If someone needs to pursue this, then hey, we're here, but go get your work done, man. And maybe it'll be like part-time for some or full-time for others or whatever.
So we're gonna talk about your company a little bit. I saw a thing on your program, on your website, says like something called a new parent program.
Yeah.
What is that about?
That's very wild, right? So the new parent program is the Department of State. So in the Department of State, there are overseas pregnancies, whether it be the employee or the eligible family member is what they call it. And it's in the government's best interest to have that pregnant employee or spouse have their child within the United States. It's best for the mom, best for the kid, best for citizenship requirements, best for everything. So, and in a lot of places where the Department of State people are employed is quite austere. So we have a program where they'll bring them back to the United States for 90 days. So while they're there, they get TDY because it's a business expense, right?
So don't make them like go back to live with their parents, anything like that.
No, they get to pick anywhere they want to go in the United States.
And they'll say anywhere in their states they pick.
Anywhere they want to go, which I'll get to in a sec, right? Okay. So anywhere they want to go in the United States. So they'll pick, generally they kind of pick where they have family around, right? Especially if it's like the first one. So they go back and that the mother gets TDY and the dependents get TDY as well. And when the baby arrives, the baby gets TDY. They're at like proportional rates. So in the manual, it shows that a mother would get about $45,000 worth of TDY to go to DC for 90 days, which is a lot of money to find lodging in for 3 months. And nobody rents baby furniture. So we'll rent whatever they need. So sometimes you have someone find an unfurnished place and we'll furnish the whole thing. Or we're good at cribs. We're good at all of the like a the Dyson vacuum cleaner, the baby gates. We're good at renting all that stuff because nobody else rents it. And frankly, why you wouldn't want to use bassinet anyway. So that's gross. So we rent to them, and then, they can pick anywhere they want. So say a pregnant mother had a couple kids and she happened to choose Vail, Colorado during the high period, she would get like $120,000 for 3 months of temporary lodging.
Yeah, nice.
Destination pregnancy.
So your company's doing very well, right? Compared to other one, right? I think one stat is 8 months you achieved like over $500,000 revenue. Like, how have you been so successful selling your product to the market?
Right. So that's including receivables. That's so we don't have that like money in the bank, but so how have it been? So I took a lot of time figuring out what my next entrepreneurial pursuit would be. I spent a lot of time assessing because I didn't want to have to raise money. I didn't want to have to build a SaaS product. I didn't want to have something that took so long to create something on a guess. So a lot of it was assessing. So how have we been profitable is that we have a lot of access. Frankly, we speak the language. So we have a lot of Department of Defense folks, and we speak the language, and more importantly, I understand the rules. I make sure, like, I spend so much time diving into the law to make sure that our clients don't get in trouble and we don't get in trouble, that we stay well within the boundaries of the law. So,
and then is this available in every state?
Correct. Every state in the United States. Yeah.
Is anyone else doing this or something comparable to this?
No, not really.
Okay.
Not really. So our competitors really are corporate housing.
Okay.
Corporate housing. That's their really other option. So if you're going someplace on short-term TDY, your business sends you someplace, Kentucky, you're going to stay in a hotel over a weekend. You're staying there for a week, you might stay in an Airbnb. Staying there longer, you're probably going to stay at either a furnished corporate housing, or you're going to stay in an unfurnished place and rent furniture. So that choice is right in there. So our competitors are the furnished housing, corporate housing, which is junk, or it is furniture rental. So we are a furniture rental company, but really our space is the corporate housing. So in the furniture rental industry itself, the competitors are Aaron's and Rent-A-Center, that both have like an annual revenue of $2 billion globally, but they're not really our direct competitors. They're more of like a payday loan sort of thing, right? So they rent furniture, they do rent to own. It's kind of predatory, I guess, in a way.
It is, yeah.
But Court Furniture is a direct competitor in terms of providing furniture to unfurnished housing.
So someone needs your services, they get the whole apartment furnished. The TDY for 6 months. TDY ends. What happens to that furniture?
Right. So in the very beginning, we say there's this much is the allocation that we will spend to purchase brand new furniture for you that you then rent from us. So in the very beginning, there's depending on where their TDY location is and how many days in the month and seasonality and how many dependents they have, we'll determine the amount. And then we'll pick with them, what do they want? And that gives them the ultimate variety, right? I have special operators in Tampa that want to have a gym rather than a living room. We'll rent you a gym. We'll go find you a gym. I have a guy that wanted really specific artwork from UK. Okay, we'll get it. We'll track it through customs. It shows up there. I have a guy that wanted a Japanese futon from Japan. Fine, we'll go buy it, rent it for you, completely customizable. At the end of the rental, so that means that we don't have a warehouse. We have no logistics on the front because it's all delivered there and we help them assemble it. And then on the end, we don't want to have a warehouse at the other end. It's too expensive to move around furniture. That's more expensive than the cost of the furniture. So we simply liquidate the stuff for a quarter of the retail price. So anything that they selected to rent, we just liquidate it on the open market. It's not rent to own or option to buy. We liquidate it. Lots of times our customers buy the stuff that their employer rented for them. Totally legal, they can buy it. Some of them pick what they're going to rent, knowing that on the other end, they're going to buy that, which is a great all around, and it meets the tax regulations.
And do you have any partnership, like any furniture companies, like with Ashley's Furniture or
Right.
Ethan Hortons, or?
Yeah, we're getting those. And that just alleviates like the logistics tail, right? So we can serve anywhere where there's furniture, right? Somebody says, you rent in Syracuse, New York? Yes, we do. We'll rent to anywhere because we don't have a logistics tail. But getting partnerships with Ashley Furniture, that's our first one, right? Having a good, solid working relationship means that we get the best stuff on time, exactly when we need it and where we need it.
Would it ever be possible to run out of new furniture? I mean, they make new furniture all the time, right? So that's impossible, I'm guessing.
Yeah, you just pick something else, right?
Okay.
You know. Yeah.
So off the subject, I just had another question about spearfishing.
Yeah. Okay.
What's the craziest like thing you've seen down there?
Oh, I had a shark in Hawaii. Like when there's the videos of the people in the shark cage, it was that, but without a cage. Because I was with some really experienced local spearfishermen, and we have this, like, what you do is you make like a chum ball and you throw the chum, and then it all settles down in like a cloud, and you dive down and you sink with the cloud. And I swear the shark was like from me to the camera, just chomping away at the chum, and just like, I'm not accomplishing anything here. Even if there is a fish, it's gonna get it first. Yeah, terrifying.
Yeah. All right. Back to your company.
Right. Okay.
Back to your company. How does your point of view? How does your company succeed? What makes you successful?
Well, it's a great opportunity, really. What makes us successful? I guess the default answer would be the team, right? That I don't get anything done; they get it all done. There's no way that I could sell as well as our salespeople can. I just can't communicate to a customer in their language, on their level, or whatever. Meet the customer where they're at. I can't do it as well as they do. I would talk about law. I would get lost. And Brittany, who does operations, who does most of our customer interface and helping them source the furniture, I can't do that either, right? I just don't have the skill set to do it. It's not where my skill sets arrive. So the success of our company is really based on the people and their ability, their belief in the vision, their recognition of the opportunity, and they're willing to they're all a bit entrepreneurial themselves, right? Everybody's taking the persistent entrepreneurial risk.
So follow-up question, from your point of view, how is your company going to fail? What happens where your company fails?
When you said those mountains, they stop existing, that would definitely be a failure. No, we'd find a way. I'd get furniture out there because it'd be emergency relief, and we'd help them do it. So a fear is that some big company with a room full of MBAs looks at this and says, "Oh man, how have we been missing this opportunity for so long? We had the economics all incorrect," and they throw $5 million at, like Amazon with Amazon Home Services. If a big dog stepped in, that's a risk, right? But I think we've graduated beyond the point where that's a risk to us. To like the big company, they put the MBAs in there and they just say, why not just buy TDY Rentals? They've already figured it out. They speak the language. They've got the whole thing. Just buy us. So that's a risk and a fear that that's what we're afraid of. Right
now, you haven't done any fundraising, right? And do you plan on doing fundraising? Are you going to try to keep the way? Because I know you don't. I think you have like a big line of credit, don't you?
Right, line of credit. So I had an advisor, a friend of mine, when I needed to purchase like $130,000 worth of furniture, I did not have enough room on my Amex to do that. So he stepped up. So that was that's like our only real investor of sorts, but we've paid all that back. So it's like a friend debt. I guess could it be considered a friends and family round? Ish, right? Now, do we want to raise money? Well, we're profitable. So we don't have like a runway. Why would we need to raise money? Not opposed to it. I think when we have a solid go-to-market strategy and when we're ready to so the markets that we're going after are enormous, right? I think that the US government spends about $1.5 billion annually renting furniture, whether it be directly through a furniture retailer like myself or through a corporate housing, the portion of it, right? So that's a giant market. And then the corporate housing industry is like 130 billion globally. So there's giant markets out there. So the reason to raise money would be to get there faster, than that room of MBA full of MBAs would do.
So how do you take care of yourself?
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know. I run. I'm kind of obsessed with trying to qualify for the Boston Marathon again. So I run 3 times a week. I used to work out. I got a gym at the house, but I've really, I guess, fallen off that the last month or two. My diet's pretty good, I suppose, comparatively. Could be better. But I work pretty much nonstop, right? But your brain is gonna take breaks whether or not you want it.
Yeah, I know, right?
Gonna just do it.
Yeah, it's gonna shut down, yeah.
Right. So like you can only run so far, so fast, right? Before you have to take a break. So even though I've conditioned my body and brain to be able to perform more, you find yourself taking breaks, and I don't feel guilty about that anymore. When I take like a 5-minute break to just mess around on Facebook or whatever, I'm like, okay, it's me taking care of me. I'm okay. And then I get back in the game.
So with your military responsibilities, TDY Rentals, all the outdoor stuff you do, family stuff, friends, social, all this kind of stuff, like how do you like organize stuff day to day? Like how do you like, for example, like post tomorrow, you have 30 things you want to do. Obviously you want to do things 1, 2, 3 versus number 29 and 30, right?
Yeah.
How do you make sure you do that?
Can I show you?
Yeah.
All right. So I've been developing this to-do list. Wait, our cameras are on, right? So this colorized, antiquated analog to-do list, I've been keeping one of these for 20 or so years, right? And I redo it every couple days, and I write down, this helps me, it's like an external hard drive, right? All of the additional tasks that you're like, oh, I gotta remember to go to the post office for blah, 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 blah. That's all in here. And there's tasks, honestly, Jason, there were tasks on it that have been on there for like 10 years or so. And you're like, well, I'll get around to it when I get around to it. But this helps me organize. And then from this, every day I'll write my list of things that are bugging me the most. All right, this is bugging me, this is bugging me, this is bugging me. And then I write, and then I kind of pick the ones, I draw a little square around the ones that I'm gonna get done today. And that's how I live on that list. And I know that list there that frees my brain to do all the rest.
Do you have any other tools you use? Like some people use Asana, some people use like Slack, whatever.
Right, man, but it's not really working too well. There's too much use. Like, can someone automate my list? And we tried doing it with like, all right, we're going to use a tool so we can all coordinate across the team. But then they're always selling all these bells and whistles. Like, I don't really need a Gantt chart. So for the team, we have a Google Sheet, and we all have shared access to the Google Sheet. And I assign who the tasks are and who's the owner of the task, who's the supporter of the task, an explanation of the task. And then I prioritize it for each member of the team. And then here's a secret. In our company culture, we have cereal, like our favorite breakfast cereal. And I don't know how this came to be, but like Steve Watkins, who's a co-founder of mine, he loves Life cereal, and I love Lucky Charms, right? So we incentivized each other by being like, no, you can't have the Life cereal, not yet. But you close that deal, you get it, or you did. So then that kind of became like a joke between Steve and I, and then it is permeated throughout the company. So now the interns will have what's called a cereal task. Like, you get this done, you get your cereal, and the cereal is just sitting there waiting for them so they can look at it. Oh, get that cereal, yeah. And then when it happens is then you have that cereal. It's like the first thing in your morning, and it's your reward cereal, right? Like every morning I have half an avocado and a bowl of Cheerios. Right? That's my standard healthy thing, except when I earned that Lucky Charms, then I have that unhealthy Lucky Charms bowl, and I'm like, oh, it's my reward, and I started off the day.
So your interns, have you delegated in them to do your Excel spreadsheets for you yet?
No,
I know that's gonna be the answer.
No. So what we have done is that Excel spreadsheet that is the basis of the contracting. We have automated that now. That's so we have a dev guy, and he's been working on that since the beginning. So 2 months of taking that Excel math and turning it into an online product. So that'll really be one of the first tools that we launch. And the thought is, everybody in the government goes on TDY, and everybody is unsure of how much money they're going to get. So we will have that tool available for everyone, given all of the different things where they have dependents. Because I see customers, and I was like, and when I asked them, like, hey, how did you figure it out? Some of them have an Excel spreadsheet that's been passed around in the industry. Others like hold up a piece of paper where they kind of scratched it out. So making this tool is a tool that will give away everybody in the government. Hey, you're going on TDY. Tell me your location, how long you're going. This is the type of entitlements you are available to get, so that so that the writing's on the wall. Now, obviously, when they're there, we will tell them about our product and how to best use their entitlement.
And how many co-founders do you have?
So there's so I'm the founder, and then there are 3 co-founders.
So can you talk about how, like, a lot of companies fail because co-founder relationships go to shit, right?
Right.
Can you talk about how you're managing that and how that y'all came together and all that kind of stuff?
I would say that is a lesson learned from Choose Vets, certainly. So Steve Watkins and I, he's head of sales. We've been best friends since West Point, like best friends, right? And so that's a tight relationship. And then remember when I said I started that moving company? When I started the moving company and I did that coding thing, and I was dealing with all the calls and scheduling the people and the movers and everything, I couldn't do that. So I hired through a friend of mine, Brittany. And Brittany was there through the growth of Choose Vets. So she has always done some sort of customer relations logistics there. And then she's now, she runs operations for the company now. So we're very tight. And then Paul, who was the CTO, he was the CTO at Choose Vets.
Okay.
So we core team is super, super important to us. And now we're looking for a marketing person to join our core team. So finding it's been a challenge, because we have to, like, all of us are military veterans. How many marketing people do you really know that are military veterans? So we don't have anybody in our immediate sphere that we work together with. But we're close to finding somebody there. But yeah, having that core team and being able to, it's not as like you always know that somebody else is going to get the work done, right? But being able to relax and just know sale comes in, and everybody knows Steve's going to handle it. A client gets sold and one is ready for the product. We all know Brittany's going to solve that solution and get it done. And there's just inherent trust in her ability to do it.
And all y'all here in the Seattle area? Or
actually, no. CTO Paul, he's in Bellevue. Brittany operations, she is in LA, although she has an affinity for this area. Was originally from here, Chehalis. Steve Watkins is in South Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we have a saleswoman in Jamie, and she's in Bangkok.
So next I'm gonna play this demo.
Oh, right. Demo videos. Is there any water? Can I go grab it?
Yeah.
You want one?
I don't know if you want me to play the volume and the volume play.
I'll just talk through it. I know that guy that's up there. It's me.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so briefly, I guess. So this is a demo video that's more than just a demo. It's also kind of an explainer, right? You could show what okay, can we pause it? I mean, can we control the speed on it? We'll have time and we'll just kind of talk through what it is, right? So most demo videos are inherently obvious what the thing does and why you need to do it. And a lot of what we do is not obvious. So explaining a calculator to show what someone's entitlement is, people are like, we all know how much you get. No, you don't. It's super complex. So explain what we're building, why we're building it, and where we're currently at, and where our future is. So let's give it a shot. Let's see what happens in the next video, in the next step. I think the first thing I talk about is, okay, so pause that for a sec. So this is what we're gonna build. We're gonna build something that shows people how much their entitlement is. And that's an example of your in DC, you can see that there's a fluctuation in the amount of money that they get every month. Now, generally, when you rent somewhere, it's a static rate, right? And then, so that leaves a unused entitlement. So our first thing is figuring out what that unused entitlement is. All right, let's keep playing. And then, okay, go back a step. Yeah, okay. And then, yeah, right, pause right there for a sec. So all of our customers need help figuring out where to live. And there's a lot of tools that exist that kind of need to be aggregated, right? So we found it very helpful to use overlays like in the military. So say you're going out of Tampa, you want to know your go, no-go terrain, right? So, and then also because you don't know that, right?
Yeah, often sometimes like knowing where not to live is way more important than where to live.
Right. So we'll make these, we already do make these, but it's like handmade, right? But it'll be integrated into a system using, like there's data out there that you can tell by police reports where no-go terrain is. You can tell by property values. You can tell all this stuff that's in a realtor's head that you're not going to find on realtor.com or whatever. Bring that out into a visual depiction. Also include drive times, because everybody wants to know how far it is within my 5-minute, 10-minute stuff. So we'll put points of interest on there, drive times, all of that aggregated so that the customer knows kind of where they should live. And then what we are is we're going to disrupt the entire corporate travel industry. And by what we do is we allow, so currently when you do corporate travel, it is, you say you're going with Facebook down to, Mountain View for 7 months. They say, here's your houses. Good luck. That's where you're staying. And they have a very similar reimbursement heuristic because it's based on IRS regulations. So then but there's this whole chain of middlemen in there, right? There's the contractor officer who gives it to the contractor, gives it to somebody else. But in this, you have ultimate variety. So we'll show what all of the unfurnished houses are, and suddenly any unfurnished house becomes corporate housing. So we'll show all of that, and then you pick the layouts, and then the layout, there's a finite number of apartment layouts, frankly, and you put a 3D depiction of it, and then the customer will be able to, right there on the website, pick which furniture they want to have in their location. Also, there will be an interface for the employer to say, I would like my employees to live in this area. They can go pick where they're going to, here's how much money they get, here's where they're going to go for it. And it cuts out, it adds more value to the employee, because the employee gets to have this freedom of choice, can be a completely tailorable experience. So we find that they are better employees because they're happier at home. They actually want to go on one of these work trips because suddenly they get so much more out of it. Yes, we keep playing on here. And it cranks out the receipt in a manner that would suit whatever the employer is. So that's what we're building. So if we keep going, I think I just explained that. Yeah. So, yep, that's all. And then I guess we go to, go back to that one. Go to here, right there. Yeah, go. Let's see what happens there. So this is the dream of corporate housing. I made the same hand motion. The dream of corporate housing is, this is what you're promised. You sold some big, amazing place in the sky with beautiful furniture, wonderfully decorated, and you'll see
penthouse view.
Yeah, you'll see that
on the brochure
on their websites. But in reality, it's not. It's junk. This is actual stuff that we took pictures of someone's corporate housing, old TVs.
Like the frying pan.
Oh my gosh!
So
yeah,
at
least, right? And you don't get everything you need. It's a bunch of junk, and that's a real problem. And Also, bed bugs. I stayed in corporate housing one time and I got bed bugs, and they don't bite the tough skin. It was horrible. So what we're going after here, this is your market size. So we mentioned this a little bit earlier, the $1.5 billion the U.S. government spend on temporary furniture for their employees.
And where do you get these numbers from?
I just made them. No.
Like most entrepreneurs.
No. So the U.S. government, the furniture, that was based upon a lot of research, right? And I'm sure as we get better research, we'll get tighter on what that is. But even if we look at in terms of like, if we look at the baby program, and we say the baby program is probably an average of $30,000. And then you say, well, let's say there's about 500 to 1,000 babies per year. That's one way of looking at it. And then there's also the Foreign Service Institute, where the Department of State sends its folks. You say, well, the Foreign Service Institute has 4,000 students per year, and their average potential contract set would be about $40,000. So suddenly you're seeing big numbers just starting to sprout around without aggregating everything. And I imagine it's probably bigger, but that's kind of what we're guessing right now. It seems realistic. Okay. And then the global furniture rental market, that's easy to find.
So I know right now you're focused on American military. You stop doing like maybe like French military, German military. Oh, yeah. Okay.
In fact, we're already in communications with French military who wants to use us in Tampa, but there's a lot, right? So there's so many opportunities. We're kind of going with the ones that are easiest to do. All right. So yeah, there's some words in there. So the economic realities of furniture rental. So the economic realities are like the furniture is the profitable. I mean, I'm like giving away secrets here. So it's like something that I figured out that most people have not, for whatever reason. Look at the price of an unfurnished apartment. Look at the same price of a furnished apartment. The furniture is the expensive part. That brings it so high up, and that's because they're desperate, based on desperate markets, right? The unfurnished housing is based upon the housing market. Furnished housing is based upon the hotel market. There's a temporariness, so they're right. So there's two different economies. Yeah. So per diem rate is based upon the hotel rate somewhere, and that's a temporary thing. The hotel, your unfurnished rate is based upon how much does it cost to build a house there, frankly. So you have this disparity in here. And that disparity is also fluctuates across the country, because furniture is still the same price across the country. But so that's an economic reality. Now, also, the cost of labor continues to rise. The cost of storage, inventorying, all of the rest of that continues to go up, whereas the cost of furniture itself continues to go down. So I use the comparison of like the wooden spoon analogy. It's kind of weird, but your wooden spoon, I throw it in the dishwasher. My parents would freak if I throw it in the dishwasher. They're like, oh no, you got to hand wash it. If you put it in the dishwasher, it's gonna splinter and die. And I'm like, it costs like 25 cents. But in their generation, it costs a lot more. So there's a perspective on the value of furniture, which has evolved. Now, there's also an emotional perspective that goes along with there too, but basically the cost of furniture keeps going down. The cost of storing, moving, shipping, and all the rest keeps going up. So inventorying is a bad idea.
This one right here.
So this is the process, basically a process diagram. So what we are is we're an automation of the process. It's kind of fundamental to how I view startups. I do everything analog first. My first clients, I just kind of did it via paper, right? And then you build an Excel document that automates some stuff. And now we keep automating more and more. But this is the process that people go through when they're renting furniture. First, it's established as a work-related lodging expense, which is based on IRS regulations. If a company is sending someone somewhere to do a job, it is a tax-free entitlement, right? So if company's sending you somewhere for a year, they can't buy you furniture, because then they would own the furniture, and they're not in the business of doing that. They can't give you money to buy furniture, because if they do that, then that is considered taxable income. but they can pay to put you up in a hotel because it's a business related expense. So first, there's an establishment of that as a work-related expense. You help figure out their location, the number of entitlements, and then they can either go into the contracted lodging, which is corporate housing, or we enable them to pick any house, pick any furniture, and at the very end, we liquidate it for 25% of the retail price.
Okay. And you usually have a pretty easy time liquidating it?
Absolutely. So why did we pick 25%? So my dad, the accountant, would say you depreciate furniture at 20%, right? And so we are liquidating at more than its value because of certain factors, right? I need it gone on a very specific day. I need it picked up sight unseen.
You don't want to pay storage fees or inventory fees or
all of that just cranks up my price, right? And it's not worth it. So it's sight unseen, needs to be picked up on that very same day, take it and go. So what we do is we have relationship with like local moving companies that they'll come pick it up and they'll just go drop it off at some furniture liquidator.
So when like a furniture company delivers furniture to the place and the moving company takes it, is that something you control? Like those people work for you or just like partners, or how does that work?
Right. So we found that through our supply chain analysis is like generally the movers are a third party. Even if they have the label, if they deliver for a furniture warehouse, or so say you buy something off Amazon. You buy a couch off Amazon, there's the platform, there's the seller, and there's the deliverer. The deliverer never gets rated. If you say, oh, it took 6 months to get here, that delivery guy doesn't care, right? And it's come from our moving experience. So what we do is we go direct to the mover. We develop relationships with the movers themselves because we speak mover. And that relationship means that we get our stuff exactly when we need it because we have that in there. And then having that relationship, we just say, hey, Greg, we got all this furniture that somebody didn't want. And he's like, comes right up and grabs it. And, he do whatever the heck he wants to do with it. Now, also, we donate furniture too, like a lot of stuff. So we've found donation to be pretty awesome. It's something that we're looking forward to doing more in the future, but developing the relationships with a donation center that can pick up when it needs to be picked up is more complicated.
Yeah, I
than
can
we thought it was
imagine.
gonna be. Yeah.
Okay. And how about this one right here?
So this is more just me talking of, this is a visual depiction of the reimbursement methods, which I think I've spoke ad nauseum about.
Yeah.
This is more about how there's the complexities of this is the sliding scale, right? Where it goes way down. And then this is our tech stack. And this is a video depiction of, based upon the inputs, you can deliver a contract that is variable, right? So court furniture can't do that. They've got a system they've been using for 20 years. And if you said to court, well, I want to pay you $101 on this day, and I want to pay you $2,500 on the next day, they can't do that, right? And then this is basically our inventorying system, which is Google Sheets. So I have graduated away from Excel. But this is an inventorying system, and what it allows Brittany to have an interface where she can do purchasing and tracking of all of the furniture. Meanwhile, there's an interface for the customers to see, where there's some deliberation back and forth about what they want to buy and where is it and when it will be received and what's the disposition of it and if there are any sort of complaints about it. So we've automated a lot of our processes just because that's how you scale. And what we're building is we're basically taking all of the little tools that I've kind of made and cobbling it together in one spot, right? There's the contract, there's the inventorying system, the supply system, there's the interface of like, where am I going to live? Sort of those things.
So I'm sure you deal with different furniture companies. You get experience like, like this furniture, their furniture like is better built, this furniture lasts longer,
100%.
or okay. And then I'm guessing you tend to go to the companies that actually build good furniture versus the one that's like trash, so to speak. Right?
Yeah, 100%. And there's the reliability of the shipper. There's the reliability of the product. There's the and not just like, is it a good product, but is it delivered what was promised? A lot of times you'll get something that's the wrong color. And Brittany, she orders hundreds of thousands of dollars of furniture. So she has these relationships with all these suppliers. So frankly, like I'm going to buy some furniture for my house. I'm going to ask Brittany what to buy, frankly, because you have this perception as a consumer. You're like, I want that one. But you don't realize that that one is going to come 6 months later, but this one, it'll show up tomorrow. So she knows all of those intricacies and can even from down to like, what's the best spatula to get, or what's the best kitchenware or pots and pans and where to get it from.
Do you think there's gonna be time in the future where furniture companies gonna, like, say, hey, our furniture is highly recommended by TDY Rentals?
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, maybe one of them will buy us. Who knows? They're gigantic. I could see that. And we actually, she has started making product review videos saying like, because she's an expert at it. So she knows this is the pots and pans to buy because they're reliable, they're dependable. And, she gets the feedback from all the customers. So she's aggregating all of this data from all of our people. So she knows deliverability, reliability.
Have y'all noticed a difference between like dealing with, like, we'll say a national brand furniture company versus maybe a locally owned furniture brand company?
No, not really necessarily. So the advantage of nationally owned furniture companies means that the customer can go try out the furniture in their hometown before they go to their location. So it's an advantage. Like at Ashley, they can go to their local Ashley, look and feel it already. And there's a relative consistency with the national brand. You're dealing with the same people speaking the same language. Whereas when you have a local furnishers, a little more intricacies involved in it, right? But Target's the same everywhere, and they've got the best, spatulas.
Where is furniture actually made at?
I have no idea.
Okay.
You know what? Frankly, I haven't seen most of our furniture.
Okay.
I trust, like I said, you got to trust good people.
Yeah.
If Brittany knows, I do not.
Okay. All right. So you already talked about your company some. Can you first of all, like the company TDY Rentals, of course, it's self-explanatory. Was there any, like, why TDY Rentals? Why not some like fancy name or,
right?
Why be so basic?
Yeah. And we've probably got to like rebrand eventually as we move into the corporate world. So when you're picking a company name, I'm sure, as you're aware, right? You have a whole bunch of ideas and then you have to see what URLs are available.
Exactly. Number one thing.
It's like,
you have the best name in the world.
Yeah.
Someone has it and they're not using it. They want $10 million for the URL.
Squatting on your URL, right? So you make a list of words and you make a list of URLs and you pick out of the ones that's available. TDY Rentals is obvious to anybody in the government. Oh, yeah. And that's our first customer. Everybody knows it, except when you're in the Navy, they call it TAD. Everybody knows what it means. TDY Rentals, got it. Quickly, they know what it means. Will it resonate in the corporate world? Who knows? We'll see. Well, maybe we'll rebrand by that point. I mean, that's when you like do Series B and you stop being in the Army Reserves sort of thing. I don't know.
Yeah. So you always talk about your company, but can you like go more detail, like how it got started, what you're focused on now, what your big term business for moving forward? Okay.
So complex question, right? So how it got started was I went on TDY. I went on TDY in Tampa and I realized the opportunity.
Is this where you had the bed bugs at?
No, that's not where I had the bed bugs at. No, actually, but yeah, that was not there. But that sucked. I realized the opportunity when I was in Tampa. I saw my peers and I saw what they were getting for the amount that they were paying. And there's got to be a better way to do it. And I ruminated on it. I studied the economics behind it. I did like basically a case study sort of thing. And I was like, well, there is a better way to do it. So that's how it started. Right. And then you say, where are we going? What was your other questions? Or
like, what do you focus on right now?
Right now, product market fit, right? So we have initial adopters. So we have a minimum viable product. We have initial adopters. We've got lots of customers and all of our customers love it, but there's an education period, right? You're trying to convince the first people to get in an Uber and there's a distrust.
I'm not getting to some random stranger. I don't know what this guy is.
Yeah, exactly. But now it's ubiquitous, right? So that's where we're at, is figuring out the best way to explain that to a customer in a quickly scalable way. Thankfully, Steve Watkins is a fantastic at communicating complex things without all my legal jargon, right? That's our salespeople. That is really their mission. Their mission is to sell, but it's frankly, it's to figure out how to sell and how to scale the words and explain it in the right way. Because our website doesn't even do that. So we really need to figure out, how do we get that in a way that everybody can quickly understand? And how do we empower those initial adopters to tell their friends? We get lots of referrals because our customers love it. And they want to, they're like, dude, check this out. And that is kind of how it works in the government. You remember, right? When you're in that group of people, you're like, dude, I don't want to do all the reading. What is Bill doing? You know, he's a smart guy. He's maybe not my boss, but he knows his stuff. So I'm just going to buy whatever Bill buys, right?
I'm guessing the future is like be the dominant player in the market.
Yeah, it'll be the thing to do. There's like the thing that everybody does in the military. You all stay there. There's something you all do. We all do. And that'll be how it is. That's what we envision anyway, right? Is to have it be the easy button. Everybody knows, oh, you're going to TDY. You get to go now. So now you get to go on TDY.
Click this button.
Yeah, click this button.
Fighting to go on TDY.
Right. Yeah, right. Because they have a better quality of life, right? I think really what like a vision is. So yes, we're a corporation, and obviously our first mission is to make money, right? But really, we enable people that are going, when someone goes on TDY, they're doing something super important for the government. Like, so we're helping the government mission, which is like altruism, right? Which is really why we love doing it. Because I love talking to all my customers about what they're doing and where they're going and why, whether it be like Air Force pilots or Navy folks, or like even the mothers that come back and they have their baby, get to hear the story about their baby and their life and what they're doing over there, and how we help them. And by helping them have a better life, we're helping the US government. And eventually we're going to help every employee across the globe have that much better of a work-life balance.
So obviously, I don't think this would be a problem. What happens when like the Army realizes, or the military realizes, man, our people have a better standard of living going to TDY Rentals that they do have like on-base housing and live in a base, right? Obviously, that's not your problem, but
I mean, so like, yeah, it's true. Well, that's good, because TDY they're doing something important, right? Especially if you're going for a year or 6 months, that is an important thing. I think they would be happy about it. They would be like, look, why is everybody loving to do these complex missions? Look at everybody's stepping up to do stuff that we used to have to force people to do.
Do you see like yourself like maybe doing this, like I don't know how you do it, like doing like maybe like base housing or dorms and stuff, or you like supply furniture for them?
That's a totally different game.
Different game, okay.
Yeah, totally different game, right? That's yeah, and that's a red ocean. We're in blue ocean.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So Steve, is there anything that I should have asked you that I didn't, or anything else you want to talk about?
No, I think you're very in depth. I like it. No, I think we got everything. Yeah. So on our horizon, we're looking forward to perhaps competing in a lot of pitch competitions. So we've been intentionally kind of silent about that while we were developing, because that fear of the room full of MBAs. But we are looking forward to, like this is our first kind of PR thing, right? So now we'll begin a PR campaign, and we'll kind of come out of hiding of sorts, do more pitch competitions. We're looking forward to like bunker pitch competitions. There's USAA pitch competitions. We'll become more publicly aware, because also when you do that, like you get feedback from people and you're like, oh, I guess I should explain it a little differently. So that's on our horizon. And then over the next year, we're just going to keep growing aggressively and learning lessons from every client and just get more of them. Really, that's what we're doing.
And you said right now you're looking for a marketing person, chief marketing manager.
Yeah. So right now we're looking for a marketing person to take the entrepreneurial risk with us, right? I can't have someone that's just thinking nebulous, thinking like, oh, I'm going to discuss strategy and theory and stuff. I'm like, yeah, but you have to get behind the guns, dude. You we were all in Tampa moving furniture, right? But a few months ago, right? And we got to have someone who's ready to get their hands dirty and knows how to operate. They don't have to be the best at it, but they got to be willing to do it, to really round out the team and be able to see the vision, see the potential, and jump in with both feet and realize hey, this company could be worth $1 billion. And this has the potential of being a unicorn, right? Do you want to get in on a unicorn? Well, then do it and show your chops and then make it happen. That's what we're looking for.
So suppose a market others watching this video later on, like what they need to do to do your radar? They just send you an email. They like what would
just send me an email.
Okay.
Just send me an email. I'll answer it. Just tell me, but don't try to pitch me on your marketing company. I'm not going to go with your marketing company.
You know, I've gotten so much. Like once that I get an email or LinkedIn message from someone from Bangladesh. I saw your website. I can improve your SEO. Like, dude, I'm not giving no from Bangladesh or Pakistan or India. Like, you know,
whatever. And I understand. You know, I was in a marketing firm, right? I get that whole thing. I'm not looking for a marketing firm. I'm looking for a member of the team. Yeah.
And can you share your social media so people reach out to you?
Yeah, it's TDY Rental. No S. Someone had already squatted on the S.
Are you serious?
Yes. Facebook is TDY Rental, but if you put in TDY Rentals on Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn, it'll show up. I don't have TikTok yet, but I've got YouTube. So TDY Rentals, that's pretty much will find you.
All right. Steve, can you give us any last minute wisdom or advice or anything you want to talk about?
Last minute wisdom or advice? Man, I don't know. I guess to all the other entrepreneurs out there, know what you're getting into. There's the red pill and the blue pill. And, you know, take the right one. It's chaotic. It's up and down. It's rough. Yeah.
Steve, thanks for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
And to our listeners, thanks for your time as well. And remember to be great every day.